What's going on YouTube, my local SEO obsessed individuals out there and business owners? How's it going? Hopefully well. Welcome to a new year. Hopefully you're pumped up. I know I am, making some changes and trying to continuously dominate locally. So I want to talk today a little bit about targeting and concentration versus dilution, what Google is really big on and continues to be big on, and it seems moving towards. So hopefully this can give you some direction, some advantage in your area, and maybe even help you make some decisions turn that on, decisions with what you're considering. So what do I mean by this? Google continues to push towards concentration being a benefit for business owners. So I think the natural inclination for a business owner who is in a mediocre position or just starting even is to expand, right? Dilute dilute themselves. What do I mean by this? Dilute themselves with possibility, right? So I see this all the time, right? No one wants to be a roofing company. They want to be a roofer and a window washer and a power washer, right? They don't want to pigeonhole themselves into one thing. Same goes with area. They don't want to have one location. They want to make sure that they can be at the end of the day a national brand with 1,000 locations. And that's great. Set your vision high, right? But they don't do this out of strength. They do this out of fear. And what do I mean by that? I mean, this decision is done because a business owner is afraid that if they don't offer 5 services or they don't have 2 locations, they're not going to be able to make enough money, and they're losing out on money they could be making, right? So it's kind of this two-sided thing that has the same result. Now, then this also becomes a solution if you're not doing great or you're doing okay, right? This dilution as a solution, right? The business owner says, my first location isn't cutting it. I'm not doing very well, so we need to add another location, right? Or my services, I'm not getting enough calls for my services, so I need to add another service. Classic mistake. So, like I said, this tends to be done out of fear or as a solution, right? But it's the wrong way to go. And especially right now, and especially with Google and the way things are going, it's the wrong way to go. And let's talk about why. So let's just do some searches. And I think that's an interesting way to go about this. And maybe I'll just make some up here because I don't want to be too, I don't want to be biased, and I don't want to act like I know everything or that I'm trying to make an argument and then prove that argument. But what I'm saying here is that Google is rewarding businesses who are concentrating, not just specifically on the service, but also on the location, right? Those are the 2 different forks that we have, right? The 2 different options. You know, in local SEO, we have two of these elements that can be adjusted, right? The services we offer and the locations we offer them, right? So that's what I mean. What I mean by concentration is focus, is getting rid of one service and one city being the ultimate dominating position to be in. So, all right, cool. So let's look here. So if I do a search here for citing, okay, this is the one I just did. What comes up first? Boise citing. Only 44 reviews, but still what comes up here is Boise citing, and we're not just looking at the name, but we want to look at the domain name as well. So Boise citing is at boiseciting.net. So this gives us a double up, right, of benefit. The name is saying we only do one thing and we do it in Boise and in the city, and also their URL, right? Because if you try to trick Google and you're Boise citing, but you're at, citingcontractors.net, that's not as focused, right? That is buying yourself away in the future to not have to be Boise citing. So you can see they're getting this benefit from having a name that is concentrated and a website domain that is concentrated, and also their primary category is concentrated. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have other categories, especially if they're related to your service. But in this case, right, talk about concentration. And that's why a business like this continues to do well in rankings, even with lower numbers. Now, I want to contrast that to a national brand here. Someone who does not have a city and does not have a specific service. So if we start here, we're at number 1 with the Boise citing. Look, we have Citing Pros of Idaho. So, okay, that's still a state concentration. And you can see here, Citing Pros of Idaho, and they're a citing contractor. So that does match up, not as strongly as Boise citing. And that's why a 44 review business is outdoing a 100 review business. Now, there's so many factors here. I don't want to say that this is, I don't want to say that this is an exact, whatever the word is. I'm just saying sometimes Boise citing might be outranked by, right? This is just one keyword and one look. But, yeah. So here we have Treasure Valley Exteriors, who is primary. Let's see what their primary is. So this will often show what you're looking for, not always. Let's see if we can pick this out. Let's see if I can get this to update. I don't know why that does not want to update that for me. Sorry. All right. Well, roofing contractor. Maybe that's what they are primarily, is a roofing contractor, but for some reason it just will not bring that up for me. Okay. Whatever. So roofing contractor, right? Treasure Valley Exteriors. Now they are ranking, right? But you can see they have 638. And this does affect this. This reflects what I see often, right? Is that in order to outrank with a secondary category and a less targeted, you're going to need somewhere between 5 and 10x the amount of effort that reflects in everything, right? Now they're Treasure Valley, so they are targeted city specific, just not service specific, and they have to have 6 times the amount of reviews to even rank number 4 for this term, right? But on the business side, they're probably making up for that from the fact that they can do a lot of business, right? They can offer a lot of services. So that's important to note. Sure, you can be the generalist, but if you're the generalist, you should have more jobs bringing in reviews and more capital to invest into other things like content. I mean, think of the content on your site. If I'm going to have 50 pages from one service and I offer 5, now we're talking about 250 pages, right? So everything has to be multiplied every time you add a service or dilute your business, right? So I think that's interesting, right? And it's not always going to be the case, but let's look at something else. Let's do roofing. So now, or let's try a city specific search, right? I'm going to come in here to the city. We're going to do roofing Boise. So who shows up? Okay, we have Bartlett Roofing, Signature Roofing. There, it's not. It's giving me my area. I'm going to zoom in so we're in the actual city. Let's try it again. Okay, so Point Roofing and Restoration here shows up first. They're a roofing contractor, right? 394 reviews. And then second to them, right, is Boise Roof, that is a service area business. So they don't even have a physical location. And it looks like the pin that comes up here is also in another city. And they're at BoiseRoofRepair.co with Boise Roof, 61 reviews, roofing contractor. I mean, if that doesn't further kind of prove the point. Now, once again, I'm not saying that. Well, I am saying it. Whatever. I think that's crazy. I mean, that's like 3 strikes, right? Like we're lower reviews, right? We don't even have a .com domain, and also we're in a service area business and they're doing well. So this more shows you the power concentration. Okay, we have Mighty Dog here, you know, Hawaii, right? So now we're just seeing a lot of reviews, and then now we have a roofing and solar, right? So Boise Metal Roofing, you know, that's an interesting one. Roofing Boise Metal Roofing. I would be surprised if they didn't show up pretty well for metal roofing. Maybe they don't. Yeah. So whatever. I mean, they haven't been getting reviews, right? So that is, I think, an important caveat here, right? This does not solve the problem. It just accelerates your ability, right? You still have to do all the things another business would do. You still have to get reviews and make content if you want to do well and maximize this. That's why I feel like there's a lot of talk around like exact match domains or going and starting a business and renting it out, right? Like this. But I think you want to pair effort with strategy. Strategy without effort is not going to get you very far. Effort without strategy is difficult as well, but more doable in the long run, right? And that's what most business owners have. Effort without strategy. But I think this is kind of an interesting way to look at this. Let's jump on another let's jump on one more here. Let's see what we pull up. Oh, this is the best one. So I'm actually going to give you something on purpose. This will maybe blow your mind. Boise Pest Control. Okay. Now this is bonkers. Okay. And I think this is like the goal. So this business has now built up such a strong reputation with reviews, an exact match name, an exact match domain, and so much, you know, content and goodwill in the eyes of Google that when you search for this Boise Pest Control, which by all accounts is just a keyword, it does not even give you search results. It just goes to the business as if you're searching for the business. I think that is just like mind-blowing, right? That is like breaks my brain every time I look at this, because literally that's the end goal, right? And so I think this is what's interesting to me, right? About concentration, meaning so many people take time and are trying so hard that they're afraid to cut off, to abandon the boats, right? Abandon the lifeboats or whatever it is, right? Like, face your boat upstream, cut off all escape routes, and move forward, right? It's scary, right? You're cutting off, it seems limiting, but by focusing in like that, if you find a keyword that, if you're in a city that you want the volume, right? I should say that, like, I know some businesses that have gone for like the lower keyword, right? Something that doesn't have enough volume, and they dominate in it, but then it doesn't have enough volume. So you want to be in a city, you want to be in something that has the volume where if you had all of the search from that keyword, you would crush it, right? But that is such a winning strategy, right? If you can just one keyword, one area, one city, one service, instead of owning 5% of that and 5% of another service and 5% of another city, you own 90% or more of that search in that city for that service. That to me is a better winning strategy than anything. So what you do with this information, I like to educate. I don't like to give, concrete answers. Everyone is independent, but I think this is such a good lesson to learn and such a great thing to understand about Google right now. And this is where I've been pushing a lot of my customers and my own business as well, is into these kind of strategies. So, if you're interested, if you want somebody to bounce ideas off of, you want to talk about what you're doing and if this fits for you, how to do it right, there is research. You want to do this right. You don't want to just do this blindly, right? You don't want to miss the keywords that are out there. There is some research, but yeah, I'm always about talking about this. Otherwise, I think this will be 2026 and probably the next years. This strategy is going to pay off for those who are going to target something specific and just build depth and not breadth. Concentration, not dilution. So, cool. That's what I got. See ya.